Well, good morning. We are just this morning, so I'm very pleased and proud that Oracle are sponsoring this event, as we're doing a lot of IoT and M2M events around the world. And I want to really explain, how we navigate the Internet of Things and Oracle's role within this that actually can help the overall industry to actually participate and gain value from this explosion in devices and explosion in the data and the usage of that data. The topic for the presentation was, big data, cloud, and M2M and how the roles play. So I call that literally navigating the Internet of Things. But let me take you back. So the America's Cup is one of the world's longest running, but also earliest international sports, started in 1851, and in that time technology was obviously fit for purpose in 1851, but things have moved on. And yes, I am going to talk about sailing, but for a very specific purpose. As some of you may know, the America's Cup was run in San Francisco Bay just last fall. It actually coincided with an Oracle worldwide event called the Oracle Open World, when 50,000 of Oracle's customers attended the event. That coincided with running the America's Cup. And Oracle is a sponsor of Team USA, hence the sails on there. If any of you are sailors in the room, I'm sure you're very aware of that. But this is all about technology. So on that boat, literally there are over 300 sensors that are literally analyzing data and running variables 3,000 times, 10 times per second. That generates a lot of data. Now, 1 gigabyte of raw data per sailing day doesn't sound a lot, but it's the usage the data is made that is literally the critical thing. And again, some of you may know that Oracle Team USA were way behind in terms of the race. The competitors only had to win one more race, and then they'd have won the America's Cup. And Oracle came back by using the data. Every single crew member on the boat literally has a PDA that literally takes the data from the sensors. The data is literally then analyzed, is then pushed out to the individual PDAs of each sailor, depending on the job role and function that sailor is doing. It could be a guy looking after the sail tension, the ropes. It could be the riggers, depending on how they're doing the ballast in the tanks. It's also taking things like wind speed. It's taking the strain on the mast, on the sails, and it's giving them personalized information on what they need to do to improve their specific job performance in real time. And that's when the amount of data is actually largely irrelevant. You need the raw data to be able to do the analysis and to provide the information of value and the insight that the data gives you to be able to improve whatever job you're actually doing. And there's a few examples. It then takes other environmental factors such as the environmental conditions for the next second, few seconds, minutes, the next few hours, or indeed the next few days, so they can plot their overall tactical courses on how they're going to win the next race, or how they're going to succeed in whatever task they're asked to do. So it's very customized feed information to extract the business and informational value from the information, the data being generated. It's not just about the data. And I think everyone this morning has said pretty much exactly the same thing. But going on from that, that data is then also used literally to improve the boat design. So of course it's about stability and strength, and those two things in this type of boat that is literally on the edge of physics is a pretty important thing. So it's then used in boat design. I'm not sure they're here, but GE, their IoT or Internet of Everything, they call it the Industrial Internet. And GE talk about something called the power of 1%. And this is exactly the same, where they take real-time data from the sensors on their aero engines or their locomotives or their healthcare devices or their power generation plants, whatever it is, and they take data from the sensors and they literally help with the running of the machines there and then in terms of limiting or lowering unplanned maintenance, but they also take the raw data into improving the overall design of the next iteration of the product and the platform. So I use sailing. It's also very key to Oracle, but it's a real-life example that we can use on the power of the Internet of Things. But as we all know, those new technologies literally bring up new possibilities using machine-to-machine communications. We've heard this morning from Orange and from Telefonica, Deutsche Telekom, about how they, as a bunch of service providers, are delivering value-added services to their customers, be it enterprises or governments or other agencies, whoever it may be. And to be honest, I don't think anyone in this room really knows where the possibilities of this new technology will actually take us. We need to be able to prepare for it and make sure it's secure, robust, literally repeatable, scalable, and all those things, so the organizations can take advantage. So, of course, it's not about sailing. I am not going to go into a whole bunch of use cases. I think everyone in the room have your own, and I've seen them. They're all pretty similar. What I want to talk about is literally, preventing disasters. So if there's sensors on drilling rigs that are going literally thousands of meters under the earth or under the sea, then literally you want to know if something is out of tolerance, if the parameters or the thresholds are not being met or are being met to prevent a disaster. This is real use of IoT. In terms of criminal identification, if you could monitor where potential criminals are, and literally law enforcement agencies can take proactive action to stop something happening rather than reacting to what has already happened. And literally all the data feeds and the information, providing it's generated in real time, analyzed and acted upon, literally can help with these areas. Deutsche Telekom spoke about the connected cow last year, and he mentioned it again today. There's also things in the Amazon rainforest that literally trees in the Amazon rainforest literally have sensors in them that are literally with accelerometers, because if that accelerometer moves, then that tree is likely to be being felled. And that is no good for the Amazon rainforest, but it's also no good for us in terms of the CO2 and other environmental conditions. So these things are really serious, and the use cases are just enormous. Part of Oracle's job with our partners is to generate platforms that can enable these services, some of which clearly we know today, but many of which we have no idea what they're going to be, allows people to develop, deploy, migrate, and take information of value from. And obviously, everyone knows it as the Internet of Things, or the Internet of Everything, or the Industrial Internet, whatever terminology you wish to use. Because it's not just about the machine-to-machine communications, it's about the usage of the information, which also involves people. The sailors on the Team USA boat did something with the data and got an outcome that they wanted with predictable information that they're generated by IoT. But those systems do generate an awful amount of data. Everyone talks about big data. I'm sure some of our colleagues from other companies who are sponsoring this event will talk about it. Clearly it's important, and there are computing techniques to actually, of course, analyze big data. The tagline here, the electricity of our age, it is that because, electricity allowed, an infinite set of possibilities, several decades ago. Big data will also do that, providing you know how to use the data. It's not just about big data, it's also fast data and being able to get the information of value from that information. And we could talk about all the industries, and colleagues from the carriers already done that, so I won't waste your time by doing that. But it is really important that there's a standard underlying platform that is required in any of these industries. Deutsche Telekom, we're talking about exactly the same. It's relatively easy to have silos for individual industries or individual use cases, but that is not scalable, that is not reusable. The return on the investment required to do that is too painful. Therefore, enterprises, organizations, and governments are not likely to heavily invest in IoT because the return on that investment is unclear. The risk profile is also too high. If there are too many players involved in that overall end-to-end infrastructure, that becomes difficult to monetize, becomes difficult to de-risk or change the risk profile in some way. Therefore, it's about a platform that is available in multiple industries. But then you add on to the top of that the complexity of information. Be it raw data, be it video, be it audio, being whatever else, feeds coming in from Facebook, from Twitter, other social media, from industrial automation, from telemetry systems, from facial recognition systems, whatever it may be. The data is very complex. And the infamous quoted or oft-quoted, infamous is probably a better description, 50 billion devices by 2020. I have no idea whether that number is accurate. I'm sure people in this room have no idea whether the number is accurate. Our colleague from Cisco talking about $19 trillion, of revenue. Again, I have no idea whether that's accurate, but I think we all know in this room and in the world, it will be huge, but it will also be complex. And you have to work with that complexity to be able to make sure that the return on the investment is desirable, therefore people will develop and deploy those systems. Therefore, all of us who are involved in this ecosystem can participate and actually take business benefit from that, as well as governments and the people around the world also taking personal benefit in terms of healthcare and natural disasters and such like. But with all that data, Oracle promote the fact that there are 3 broad areas that are required to literally get the business insight. First one is this, the acquisition and management of that diverse data sets. We all know that the amount of sensors in the world is growing. There are already billions and billions of sensors, but what do people do with the data? Because if the time passes when that data was useful, then the data is irrelevant. So you've got to acquire it. And obviously, once acquired, you literally have to manage it, make sure it gets to the desired location, be it another device in the M2M ecosystem, be it to a person, be it to the network, to the application, whatever it may be, you have to manage the data to make sure it arrives. And I'm not going to talk about that. The Telefonicas, Deutsche Telekoms, Oranges, and others around the world, they have a role to play in that. The device manufacturers have roles to play in that. The silicon providers such as Intel, ARM with Qualcomm, Freescale, STMicro, whoever else it is, they also have roles to play. And companies like Oracle, with our 390,000 customers around the world who trust Oracle to run their business, those customers are asking Oracle, we want to take advantage of IoT. We want to expand out from your enterprise domain expertise, Oracle, and bring in the device expertise. And Oracle are embracing literally from the device through to the data center so we can literally deliver this acquisition and management of the data. But once you've acquired it, literally you then have to integrate it and communicate it securely. So taking the America's Cup example, there's data coming off the sensors on the boat, sure. But then there's environmental conditions coming in from the meteorological services that literally have to be combined and integrated to make sure that the informational value is relevant from all the relevant sources. So you have to be able to integrate it, and you have to be able to do it securely. Now, if people want to hack into, the America's Cup sailors' PDAs, then okay. However, it gets very serious, of course, when you talk about healthcare or smart city or some of these other areas. So it has to be literally the data from the device through to the data center in a secure, managed, integrated, scalable, based on a standardized platform. And the third broad element is literally the analysis and the action that you take. Because without this part, the data is irrelevant. You have to be able to do it in real time for whatever the business requirement is. You have to be able to do it with all the data sources that are required, but in the time that is appropriate to do so, whatever that may be. If it's in a smart metering system, then if you're collecting all the data, unless you are able to analyze and act on the information of value, then whatever you do after the fact is after the fact. It's not in real time. It's not within the parameters of when it needs to happen. And we think without those 3 areas, the limitation of organizations, be the enterprise or public, literally will determine the success or otherwise of true IoT deployments. And today, if you talk to companies like Gartner and IDC, and I'm sure others, they come up with a whole list of reasons why IoT is not truly being deployed in the levels that they believe it should be, and a lot of enterprises talk about, and I'm sure everyone in this room, including me as an individual Oracle employee, also talk about the opportunity. The opportunities far outweigh the challenges. It's the ecosystem in this room and with our partners outside have to overcome those challenges. Let me take you one example, and this is the Oracle commercial. Just on the acquisition and transmission of data. You know, Oracle have what we call the Internet of Things platform. I'm sure our competitors have something broadly similar. I stress broadly similar. So this is one example. This is a smartwatch, whatever it may be, or a PDA, taking data from a healthcare application, whatever it may be. The challenges for organizations doing that, and this is just one use case. Look at it, secure, reliable, proven platform, particularly in things like healthcare or something else that can literally, have bad impact on individuals or businesses. If it is a wearable device, then it's remote. Therefore, you have all the update and management capabilities, which Telefonica just spoken about. It's got to be cross-platform because the information coming from the devices will be manufactured by different device manufacturers. They'll have different operating systems. They'll have different system on chips. They'll have a whole different set of security frameworks. So, there's a whole raft of areas that we as an ecosystem have to be conscious of. It's about high speed and management and storage. And, the last bullet point, this literally, the extension of the decision making closer to the data source. Big data, Oracle, exactly the same. I'm sure SAP tomorrow, IBM, and a whole bunch of other companies. We all talk about bringing data to the analytics. What Oracle are doing with Oracle's Internet of Things platform is we are bringing the analytics close to the data. So why wait for the data to be transmitted and then do the analysis? Why don't you bring the analysis close to the data? Therefore, you would argue, well, doesn't that reduce data traffic? Not necessarily. Actually, it could increase data traffic because if that data is useful for the end purpose, then the organization requiring that data will probably poll more often. So if someone polls, once every 60 minutes for data, but they can't use the data, but if you can give them, analytics closer to it, they may poll every minute rather than every 60 minutes because they're getting more business value from the information content of the data. An Oracle solution for that, you probably saw my title, so it's no surprise. I run the Java business for Oracle worldwide on a commercial footing. And literally, there's the end devices, the gateways, there's hubs, there's the data center, be it cloud or whatever it is. This is literally all about a standards-based platform. Numerex, we were talking about some of the shark tank in the very cold water infested with sharks. The people talked about the security domains of information and, the German governments, for example, looking at smart meter data to tell whether someone's in their home or outside their home. There's all sorts of privacy issues. Therefore, you need a standard-based platform that literally runs from the device through to the data center. And that's where Oracle are literally promoting Java as the underlying development and deployment platform. Because again, what Telefonica, Orange, and Deutsche Telekom spoke about very, very lucidly was the ability to have a platform which you could then develop and deploy services, value-added services on top of, some of which are clearly known today with the use cases, but others which are not known today. Therefore, with the 10 million Java developers in the world, which is the biggest development environment that's ever existed in the history of IT, Oracle are showing those Java developers how they can develop applications and services to run on the devices rather than just waiting for the data to be sent up to the back-end system. And with our database heritage, with our middleware heritage, we believe we have all the components necessary to do a secure standard-based platform from the device through to the data center. Commercial over. But the other important thing is Why Oracle are as successful as we are is because we literally engineer these things to work together. It sounds like a glib tagline. It's not. Because if you think about database, or the amount of data coming in, the infrastructure required to do that, the power usage, the environmental conditions of the data centers that organizations and governments around the world have to deploy, then it's about how you can maximize the utilization of that infrastructure resource set. And Oracle are fundamental of the belief that you literally get the data, but you have to maximize and shrink the time taken, the storage requirement, and accelerate or increase the amount of informational value. So we engineer our hardware and our software systems to work together in a very unified environment to give you that business benefit. Again, not going to talk too much about that. I'm trying to get us back on track a little bit. But again, literally I'm talking about the device through the gateways or the hubs, through the network, be it connected directly to the IT center or via the cloud. I could talk about the technicalities of it. There's not a lot of point given 20 minutes. We have a booth outside and we have some of our engineering staff there. We can talk about technically how it's done. This is just how you do it from the device through to the data center. And then obviously there's all the Oracle database, middleware, and hardware to run it on. Very, very important. And again, we can put through our own use cases. Oracle are very proud of the fact that commercial organizations, enterprises, governments, agencies around the world all choose Oracle to run their back-end businesses. And those organizations are asking Oracle, can you please help us de-risk our IT investments in IoT? Can you simplify IT? Because if it's not a platform-based from Oracle or indeed anyone else, if it's not platform-based, as Deutsche Telekom put on their slides, it's all siloed, that is very complex. If there's a change request or a bug, who is going to do the change request, who's going to implement it, where are you going to deploy it, who's going to do the regression testing, who's going to do the documentation, who's going to train the users what the change request actually impacts. Of course, all those things are possible, and there could be people in the room who make a very good business by doing that. However, it is simply not scalable. And the types of numbers, the 50 billion devices, the $19 trillion, the 500 billion euro investment the European Union want to put behind smart city, these are very impressive numbers. The opportunity is huge, but the challenges also need to be overcome. And we as the IoT M2M ecosystem, our responsibility is to do that so we can all take advantage of it. So literally the platform from Oracle, again, my colleagues will give you more information. We literally go from the storage through the hardware servers, the database, the networking, the middleware technologies, all the way through to the applications. And we have 25,000 partners who partner with Oracle today to build out the applications with the domain expertise in government, utilities, healthcare, automotive, industrial automation, manufacturing, public safety, defense agencies, whatever it may be. That is not Oracle's job. Our job is to provide this platform which the partner ecosystem can then build the applications and deliver the services on top of the platform. So let Oracle take care of the plumbing for IoT. Everyone play their own domain card and use your own domain expertise to the best value. Because otherwise, we're all spending R&D dollars in broadly the same area. That just does not make any sense. And I think my 20 minutes are up. And again, Oracle Team USA won the 34th America's Cup using IoT. Just as an aside, by the way, I know it's too late, but it just so happens that literally later on today, Oracle are running an online IoT forum. You probably can't read it down there, but it's Oracle talking, but we're also Cisco are talking. We have, I think AT&T are talking. I think it's Ericsson, V2Com from South America, who have a smart metering system, and a company that literally delivers fresh flowers, which they get from Europe. And so they have asset tracking systems in their trucks, of course, all of which using Java technology. So unfortunately, it's all happening later tonight. But of course, it will be available on YouTube. So I'll leave you with that. It's just, Oracle are promoting IoT, and obviously we intend to make it a commercial success, and we will expand the capabilities, and we will help all of you navigate the Internet of Things. Thank you.